So this weekend we saw quite a few new releases on streaming services, one of them being Palm Springs, which released on Hulu, so I'm going to give my review on it. When carefree Niles and reluctant maid of honor Sarah have a chance encounter at a Palm Springs wedding, things get complicated as they are unable to escape the venue, themselves, or each other. So that is the synopsis for Palm Springs, but it's essentially one of those time loop movies starring Andy Samberg, who we all love, and Christian Milioti from what I know best is How I Met Your Mother. So coming into the pros, everyone has seen quite a few of these time loop movies, so you may have thought, oh, this one isn't going to be anything special, just another one of those in a romantic comedy, but wrong, it is different. In most of these time loop movies we've seen, they've discovered they're in a loop and they're immediately trying to find a way out, whereas in this one they're kind of making the most out of not having any consequences as the day constantly resets. And it deals with quite a lot of emotion. For romantic comedies, there's always emotion, but it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like it should be in there in reality. Just kind of chucked in for, I guess, entertainment. But in this one, it feels really earned and very necessary to the plot and the characters. It really touches on certain things to people. As us viewers, we always see, it always seems like love is easy in movies, or life can be perfect after you found love, but this focuses heavily on how that doesn't really matter and it isn't always as it seems, as some things are kind of unfolded throughout the movie, which I found very unique about this movie. You get both perspectives from both characters who have different sort of beginning of their days, but as the movie goes on, some things play out and you see, as it does make sense, but you discover some shocking things that have happened that whole time which you haven't been aware of. Now, from the comedy aspect, we all love Andy Samberg, as I mentioned, but we also know that romantic comedy normally has some very poor and bad humor, whereas this movie doesn't have as much humor as I thought it would. When it does display that, it is actually very good. It's nothing too amazing, but it fits perfectly for this movie and these characters. Not just constant jokes, they all feel necessary, and they're all very great and makes you enjoy these characters even more. And as I mentioned earlier about things feeling earned, you know, earned meaning they feel natural if that was happening in a real life scenario. And that also applies to the cliches, like it follows the cliches of a normal romantic comedy, but as I mentioned, it feels earned, so it feels natural that those things happen, especially for what these people have gone through, whether that's in their lives or in this loop. And also where I said it is different from other loop movies is that normally focuses on one person in that loop, but in this movie it has two characters who kind of meet because of this loop. And not only does it have two characters, you also get two perspectives. You get to flash between the two different characters' days or leading up to what happened with the loop. It just makes for some interesting stuff. And the two main cast, Andy Samberg and Christian Milioti, just had really good chemistry. Straight off the bat, you could really buy into them being these leads and how they're actually stuck in the scenario, and you can feel what they feel, and you really do feel sorry for what they've gone through. In truth, I didn't have high expectations for this, but this movie thoroughly exceeded those. Now on to the cons. In most movies, I'm not a huge fan of when they pass time by just showing these montages. The one time I actually did kind of like it is that beginning scene in Up. I know it's very different, but I think that used it properly and really well. This one, just in general, I don't like these montage. I feel like it is a bit lazy, but again, it's understandable, but yeah, just not a big fan. As it also just kind of passes through some gaps which we could have used to know what was going on more of the time. But I mean, it's fine, it's not a huge deal. But as much as I love J.K. Simmons, and I think most people do, his character in this felt a bit out of place. I know there was a message that he was meant to indicate towards the end of the movie, but just how we're introduced with him, the whole plot line with Andy Samberg's character, it felt a bit odd and out of place. I found it funny at first, but then as the movie got on, I was a bit unsure of how they revealed that sort of thing. But there are just a few things that I have little problems with. As I mentioned in my pros, I didn't have the highest of expectations for this movie, but the actual outcome of this movie was far better than I could have ever imagined. At the end of the day, it is just another movie where the character or characters are stuck in a loop, but it mixes some real feeling themes into it and kind of makes those cliches feel a bit new. And a lot of this is thanks to the great cast and the great chemistry between the two leads. For me, this is one of the best movies of the year, and I highly recommend watching. I can guarantee you will enjoy it. For me, Palm Springs gets a 7 out of 10, which is higher than a lot of movies I have seen this year, as they have mostly been released to digital. But anyway, thank you for tuning in for my review of Palm Springs. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Please also like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I forgot to mention, but thank you for 50 subscribers the other day. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.